what do we want to start with? Do we want to start with the Substack? Let's start with the Substack. We're living in amazing times. Like, history doesn't repeat, but it tends to rhyme. And when I had the discussion with Konstantin, what did he say? Where I was talking about, like seeing the West go the way of the Russia that he fled from. Last night, had the interview with Nina Infinity. Amazing. That stream last night, not to say it was any more amazing than any other stream. I knew nothing of Nina. And, I knew nothing of her, didn't know that we would have so much to talk about, and didn't know how amazing her story was. For those who missed it, go watch it. Nina Infinity has a channel, great channel. And I thought it was just going to be all talk about movies and how woke crap has, ruined stuff that I don't watch. Had no idea Nina was born in Iran, left Iran at the age of 10. When she was in Iran, she got her love for film by being able to watch American movies that she literally had, like a black market dealer of a guy, a taxi driver or something, who would come to her house, and her parents were cool and risked life and limb to deal in these black market VHS recordings of Hollywood movies. And that's how she knew of a world that existed beyond Iran. And that's how she developed a love for it. It was amazing. The whole interview was absolutely amazing. So look at this now. Now I see on the corner, Leah is not and will never be a woman. That was a $3 Rumble rant from Aunt M. Oh, it works. The Rumble rant plugin works. So we're living in a world where things repeat. Things don't repeat, but they rhyme. And just imagine. Let's go back to the sabotage of the Nord Stream pipeline. Who could have ever seen it coming? Who could have done it? It was Russia that did it to punish the German civilian population. They were using civilians as pawns. They were wreaking havoc. It's an act of infrastructure terrorism. They were responsible for people dying because by compromising Germany's ability to get was it liquefied natural gas? I forget exactly. I think it was LNG. By compromising Germany's ability to provide energy to its citizens, you are killing people, not directly, but indirectly. Lower the temperature because you're not heating enough. You cause problems. You get people sick. They die. I forget who I was listening to, but they were talking about basically how increasing the cost of energy, it leads to death, and it leads to the death of the most vulnerable, the most impoverished, the people who can't pay for the increased price, and the elderly, the ill, the infirmed. So when the Nord Stream pipeline magically busts a leak in 3 of the 4 pipes, well, there's talk that Russia did it. It's an act of war. It's an act of infrastructure terrorism, and they should be dealt with harshly. Well, who did it? Barnes is rubbing off on me in a good way. Let me see if I can find this. Who did it? 'Twas so obvious. 'Twas so obvious the wet behind the ears buffoon of a Canadian figured it out. Let me see what this is the clip. I mean, I put together the montage. Who could have done it? It's not like Joe Biden said, we're going to find a way to do it. It's not like Victoria Nuland said, one way or another, if there's a war, that pipeline is not moving forward. It's not like they said that. Oh, I'm sorry. They did. Let's hear what Nuland has to say. Of Russians. Listen to this. I like that guy right there.
With regard to Nord Stream 2, we continue to have very strong and clear conversations with our German allies. And I want to be clear with you today.
I want to be clear. I want to be clear with you today. Jesus, you know what's amazing? My brain works the same way. I don't need to remember how I remember things. I just remember how I react. My brain, let me be clear. What did I just do here? Mais qu'est-ce que je viens juste faire ici? Rafraîchi, qu'est-ce qui se passe? Sorry, guys. What did I do? Let's hear what Nuland has to say. Okay, I'm not touching it. Nuland, who bull comes out of their mouth.
If Russia invades Ukraine, one way or another, Nord Stream 2 will not move forward.
CIA in the summer warns of potential sabotage. Victoria Nuland.
With regard to Nord Stream 2.
Vows. It's a promise. Why is the audio? It's a promise. If Russia invades Ukraine,
with our German
what's going to happen?
And I want to be clear with you today.
Very clear.
If Russia invades Ukraine, one way or another, Nord Stream 2 will not move forward.
One way or another. But don't worry, by the way, it wasn't just Newland saying it. If anyone thought it's only Newland doesn't have. I don't know why the timing's off here, although she probably has more influence than POTUS himself. If anybody was saying it's only Newland, what does she know? She doesn't speak for the government. She doesn't speak for POTUS. POTUS speaks for himself. What did POTUS have to say about it? Give you a hint. Sounds very much the same.
Let me answer the first question first.
Okay, hold on. This is driving me nuts. I'm going to refresh this. But everyone in the chat, have you seen these clips of Newland, POTUS, and did you know that the CIA basically gave Germany the heads up, something's going to happen? Did you guys know this? I cannot stand the fact that that's not in sync. Let me just... Newland, who comes out of their mouth. What? It's very bizarre why this is happening. Okay, let's just go here. What the heck is going on? It's not working. I don't understand what happens. I refresh and it doesn't work. POTUS said verbatim, we'll find it. We'll make it happen. We'll make it happen. Who knew that he said that? You know, it's driving me crazy. Hold on one second. Jamie, can you pull that up? Viva Frei, Nord Stream, Twitter. No, that's the one from yesterday. Whatever. He said it. You said it. They said it. We're going to, one way or another, it's going to happen. It happens. And then they blame Russia at the time. Much like, you know, when Zelensky in Ukraine accidentally, I doubt they did it on purpose, but why let a good tragedy go to waste? When they accidentally, a bomb veers off course, lands in Poland, kills 2 Polish farmers. That's a violation of NATO, I believe. If it's an enemy that does it, kills 2 NATO citizens. Oh my goodness. Zelensky the day of, rushing the world into World War III. Does anyone remember historically of other incidents of manufactured devastation that was used as the predicate to escalate one's control of power, push the world into a war? One would be the Reichstag fire in Germany would be one, you know, arguably the government itself setting fire to buildings so they can blame it on their enemies and justify escalation. The Gleiswick incident, you know, when Germany executed Polish soldiers, then dressed them up as though they were German soldiers, and then claimed that the attack on the radio station was carried out by Poland so they could justify invading Poland and effectively got the world into World War II. Oh, no, but it's not identical. It just freaking rhymes a whole heck of a lot. Sabotage Nord Stream pipeline, blame it on Russia, escalation into what could be World War III. Accidentally bomb or deliver, who knows? 2 Polish, blame it on Russia, try to get into World War III. Well, and by the way, the individual, here we go. This is it right here. Seymour Hersh, who is a world-renowned, reputable journalist. Now that he's struck a little too close to home for the powers that be, he's going to be depicted as a conspiracy theorist. How America took out the Nord Stream pipeline. Everybody knew it. Everybody knew it. The New York Times called it a mystery, but the United States executed a covert sea operation that was kept secret until now. Oh, do I have to continue reading? I get to continue reading. 2 pipelines provided Germany and much of Western Europe with cheap Russian natural gas for more than a decade. A second pair of the pipelines, called Nord Stream 2, had been built but were not yet operational. Now, with Russian troops massing on the Ukrainian border and the bloodiest war in Europe since 1945 looming, President Joe Biden saw the pipelines as a vehicle for Vladimir Putin to weaponize natural gas for his political and territorial ambitions. The idea here would be Germany would not want to turn on Russia if Russia could then turn off natural gas to Germany and screw Germany for supporting a proxy war against Russia. So if that's the reality, that Russia would use natural gas as a bargaining chip to ensure let's just say not necessarily German neutrality, but at the very least, no German active participation in the proxy war. Well, let's say you do that, we cut off natural gas, screw you. Explain that to your citizens. Well, that was the bargaining chip. So what would be the political benefit to sabotaging the pipelines? Russia can no longer exercise that pressure over Germany. And now Germany has no vested interest to avoid escalating a conflict with Russia. And now they have sort of nothing impeding them from joining the US and the other powers in escalating this proxy war against Russia. Biden's decision to sabotage the pipelines came after more than 9 months of highly secret back and forth, a debate inside the Washington national security community about how best to achieve that goal. For much of that time, the issue was not whether to do the mission, but how to get it done with no overt clue as to who was responsible. Maybe he shouldn't have said he was going to do it multiple times before doing it. That would have been one good way of avoiding. Let's see if I make this bigger here. Here we go. There was a vital bureaucratic reason for relying. Oh, did I skip something here? There was a vital bureaucratic reason for relying on the graduates of the center's hardcore diving school in Panama City. The divers were Navy only and not members of America's Special Operations Command, whose covert operations must be reported to Congress and briefed in advance to the Senate and House leadership, the so-called Gang of Eight. The Biden administration was doing everything possible to avoid leaks as the planning took place late in 2021 and into the first months of 2022, because you imagine they leaked a draft SCOTUS decision. They're going to leak a plan to effectively sabotage the world into World War III. His national security advisor, Jake Sullivan, Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, and Victoria Nuland, the Undersecretary of State for Policy, had been vocal and consistent in their hostility to the two pipelines. We just saw that. Okay. The direct route, which bypassed any need to transit Ukraine, had been a boon for German economy. Okay, we got that too, yada, yada. Oh. Nord Stream 1 was dangerous enough in the view of NATO and Washington, but Nord Stream 2, whose construction was completed in September 2021, would, if approved by German regulators, double the amount of cheap gas that would be available to Germany and Western Europe. The second pipeline would also provide enough gas for more than 50% of Germany's annual consumption. Tensions were constantly escalating between Russia and NATO, backed by the aggressive foreign policy of the Biden administration. Opposition to Nord Stream 2 flared on the eve of the Biden inauguration in January, when Senate Republicans, repeatedly raised the political threat of cheap Russian natural gas during the confirmation. So we understand that. They understand that. Let's just see if we go to where they get into the actions of this. Okay, the Russian troops ominously building on the Ukraine border, yada, yada, yada. Planning. 2 months before the first Russian tanks rolled into Ukraine, Jake Sullivan convened a meeting of a newly formed task force, men and women from the Joint Chief of Staff and CIA and the State Treasury Departments, and asked for recommendations on how to respond to Putin's impending invasion. What became clear to participants, according to sources with direct knowledge of the process, is that Sullivan intended for the group to come up with a plan for the destruction of the two Nord Stream pipelines, and that he was delivering on the desires of the president. I'm going to give you all the link, and you can go show some love to Seymour Hersh. Let's see where here we go. What came next was stunning. On February 7, less than 3 weeks before the seemingly inevitable Russian invasion of Ukraine, Biden met in his White House office with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, who, after some wobbling, was now firmly on the American team. Team America. At the press briefing that followed, Biden defiantly said, if Russia invades, there will no longer be a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it. You know what that sounds like? It doesn't just sound like the USA sabotaging it and using German citizens as tools, negotiating tools, bargaining chips in a proxy war with Russia. It sounds like the German government itself probably was well aware of what was going to happen. They had, after all, been warned by I think they were warned later by the CIA. It sounds a lot like this is what's going to happen. And not only are we, America, going to use German civilians, the most vulnerable people of society, as bargaining chips, poker chips, tools for escalating this proxy war, we're going to let the German government know, and the German government is going to exploit and abuse its own citizens as well. 20 days earlier, Undersecretary Nuland had delivered essentially the same message. We saw both of those. A newly refurbished American submarine base, which had been under construction for years, had become operational, and more American submarines were now able to work closely with their Norwegian colleagues to monitor and spy on a major Russian nuclear redoubt 250 miles to the east, yada, yada, yada. Oh, do we even need to get into this? My goodness, hold on 1 second. Where are we on this article? Let's just skip to the end here. Here, listen to this. The Americans at work in Norway operated under the same dynamic and dutifully began working on the new problem, how to remotely detonate the C4 explosives on Biden's order. It was much more demanding assignment than those in Washington understood. There was no way for the team in Norway to know when the president might push the button. Would it be in a few weeks, in many months? The C4 attached to the pipelines would be triggered by a sonar buoy dropped by a plane on short notice, but the procedure involved the most advanced signal processing technology. Once in place, the delayed timing devices attached to any of the 4 pipelines could be accidentally triggered by the complex mix of ocean background noises throughout the heavily trafficked Baltic Sea, from the near-distant ships, underwater drilling, seismic events, waves, and even sea creatures. To avoid this, the sonar buoy, once in place, would emit a sequence of unique low-frequency tonal sounds, much like those emitted by a flute or a piano, that would be recognized by the timing device and, after a preset hours of delay, trigger the explosives. Quote, you want a signal that is robust enough so that no other signal could accidentally send a pulse that detonated the explosives. I was told by the Dr. Theodore Postel, Professor Emeritus of Science, Technology, and National Security Policy at MIT. Postel, who has served as the science advisor to the Pentagon, the longer the explosives are in the water, the greater the risk that there would be a random signal that would launch the bombs. On September 26, 2022, Norwegian Navy P-8 surveillance plane made a seemingly routine flight and dropped a sonar buoy. The signal spread underwater, initially to Nord Stream 2 and then to Nord Stream 1. After a few hours later, a high-powered C4 explosives were triggered, and 3 of the 4 pipelines were put out of commission. Within a few minutes, pools of methane gas that remained in the shuttered pipelines could be seen spreading on the water's surface, and the world learned that something irreversible had taken place. All right. Let me go to the chat. It's shocking. It's just shocking. It's an act of infrastructure terrorism. It's an act of knowingly causing death among the most vulnerable. It's an environmental disaster. It's an environmental disaster on its face. That I don't know what what happens with that much methane or whatever. It's an environmental disaster. It is a human disaster. It's inhumane, and it's done to push a war with Ukraine and to eliminate what would have otherwise been the negotiating bargaining chip with Russia to ensure that Germany doesn't escalate. Now, hey, you got nothing to lose, Germany, because we just took it from you. We being the US. We took it from you. We told you Russia took it from you so that you would join. And they still joined up, by the way. Hey, they got the heads up. Biden met with the German dude. CIA gives advanced warning to Germany during the summer. And they're basically saying it out loud. Using humans as pawns for their military purposes. Nothing what they do about, nothing wrong with that. It's what they do, says banned from YouTube. And they worry about bovine flatulence, says America for All. So that is the bombshell. Now, the White House, I think, has come out and said it's a work of pure fiction. Seymour Hersh, world-recognized journalist. Seymour Hersh, pure fiction, White House. Of course, and they're going to call him, here we go, Benzinga. Here, I'll bring this one up. You're a hero until you are no longer an ally. Nord Stream, oh, you summed that up, beasting. Well, they called it an act of, let's see if we can get another one here. White House rejects the claim. Of course they do. U.S. investigative journalist Seymour Hersh alleged the September attack was carried out at the direction of Joe Biden. Yep, of course. The White House flatly rejected a new report by veteran investigative journalist Seymour Hersh that the U.S. was behind the sabotage. Let's just see if did they use the word conspiracy? No, not in this one. All right. Well, that's the scandal. That's one scandal. Any other country does this, I think they would call it a crime against humanity. I think they would call it a crime against the environment. I think. In fact, I know, because when the world was saying Russia did it, that's how they were depicting it to justify escalating the conflict with Russia. So, well, at least it's our guys doing the bad stuff this time. So we should totally be cool with that. So Rodi Lacid says, I believe it, that Biden did not give the order. He's not in charge of anything. Makes no difference if it's Biden, the administration, the military industrial complex. Outrageous. Okay, well, that's you're up to speed on that for now. Seymour Hersh has provided I didn't give you the link. Seymour Hersh has provided the details for what most of us already knew, because they told us. They told us they were going to do it, and then it happened. So give it a read, give it a share, and Seymour Hersh doing the work that journalists should be doing, which is why he's on the outs with mainstream journalism. Poma Beat says, I don't ever want to hear commie leftists complain about climate change ever again. No, they get to do it when it's for the greater good. They have to, I made the joke, they have to start World War III in order to prevent World War III. Or, oh, damn it. They have to start World War III in order to end World War III. That's the way I should have said it. Damn it. I'm going to go retweet that. All right, that's it. Now, let's get to the James O'Keefe business. Unless there's, people can have questions. I won't have any answers. Seymour Hersh Substack. Yeah, it's in there. That is from Countermoon. Here's the link to Seymour Hersh's Substack. War is peace. Gaylord Fokker. Oh, and then Karantov with a $5 Rumble rant says, the announcer for Olg Casino ad on Rumble sounds like Robert Barnes. The people who say they love the poor, the people who say they love the environment, the people who say they hate war are destroying the environment, killing the poor, and starting the wars. Well, and I shouldn't even say that's not fair, actually, because I think all but 11 Republicans have been supporting this as well. Right? What's good for the war machine is good for the political machine.